It's Wednesday, August 31st here at the West End Gun Club. I had the day off from work today because I wanted to come out to do a run-through or walkthrough of the September 2022 NRL22 Course of Fire. Pretty much been setting up some of the stages this morning, and I just wanted to dirty up my barrel because I just cleaned it over the weekend, Sunday afternoon and through Monday, soaking up the barrel just to clean up any carbon ring that may be developing right now, because I am getting some flyers, but this morning I'm not seeing flyers even though it is windy. So perhaps the barrel is just dirty, so I needed to clean it out. Not much else to say as far as what we're doing today. Going to do the run through, but as far as the gear that you're seeing here, if you follow my Instagram, I posted a couple things or photos about this deal, which is something I've been pondering. Wanted to have some sort of observation platform in terms of multiple optics for some weird use case scenarios. But what I ended up getting was the Montage MUB, M-U-B, which is this plate here. And I have a couple of mounting options here. So I have this Really Right Stuff micro ball, which is quite expensive, but it's really cool. It's just a quarter 20 thread and a micro ball, and it's got quite a bit of articulation there, but it's only for lightweight loads. And I have this Amazon special sort of M-lock to quarter 20 thread adapter, which then I put a clamp on here. This is like a Leo photo clamp off Amazon. And I'm using that as a fixed point for anything. So right now I have my camera here because I'm going to use this camera for my downrange point of view. And I have an M-lock Picatinny rail, which you can't see here, but I'm going to have some more details on this later. So I'm sort of experimenting with this and figuring out how I want to run this. I was hoping to run 3 optics here, but I don't think it'll work because of how big these things are. I was hoping to put a laser rangefinder, my camera, and binos at the same time, but it may or may not work out. If I do, laser rangefinder, I have to be center line, and I'd have to get another micro ball, and it's going to be a really tight fit to get your hands in there because you're going to be adjusting the micro ball, both micro balls at the same time to get onto some point on target. And then at least one item should be fixed, like this is a fixed clamp, so there's no articulation here, and you would just adjust the angle by adjusting your ball head or whatever your platform is resting on. So basically in this situation, the camera would pretty much dictate where the MUB is pointing, and then from there I would adjust my micro ball here for my binos to get on whatever I'm trying to glass, or whatever I'm trying to glass and I'm also trying to record. Anyways, messing around with this, I will say this is expensive, and pretty much every platform you're going to come up with, unless you DIY a platform, it's all going to be expensive. And even if you DIY a platform, you still have to get the clamps and the mount points, and it all adds up. So this is something I probably wouldn't recommend for most people, but I'm going to have an article on this later to discuss in full detail how this all worked out. But that being said, one other interesting thing that I posted on recently was this. Yesterday I received these, and it's kind of hard to see what they are, but these are the SIG Kilo 6Ks, which is a laser range-finding binocular. These are 8x32s. It's 8 magnification, 32 objective. It's got a laser rangefinder built in. It doesn't have the full Applied Ballistics Elite. This has got what's called light, Applied Ballistics Light or Ultralight. I can't remember what it's called. But essentially the difference between this and the full Elite version is that the solver inside this will only give you data up to 800 yards. So if you can range beyond 800 with these, but it's just not going to give you the data in the binos. And you can just use your off-board Kestrel, which you can tie to this. But I haven't messed around with that yet, but I have done that with my SIG Kilo 8 case, which I have here. Anyway, the reason why I acquired these is because I have been pondering laser range-finding binos. But before I invest into something like the GeoVid Pros from Leica for $3,200, I wanted to see how well these work in general. And so I was pondering, do I buy some cheap ones with the expectation that I'll sell them eventually and lose money on the deal? But I discovered recently, and I did not know this, but I have access to some pretty good pricing with SIG. It's through the NRA instructor program. So technically everyone can see the pricing. So if you Google for SIG NRA instructor, they have a page for which NRA certified instructors can go and order from SIG directly based on some discounted pricing. And frankly, had I known this, I probably would have acquired my AKs directly through SIG and not through an actual retailer. and it might have actually swayed my decision earlier on what binos to get, because I could have gotten the 10Ks. Anyway, so these were pretty inexpensive, comparatively speaking, and so it was low risk. So I'm going to try these out and see how they go. And if I don't like them, I can still sell them and recoup pretty much most of my money, simply because the price that I got these for is not really accessible to most people. So, and it's lower than, the retail or the street price. So, I mean, I can still recoup money. And I know that's not like kind of what the spirit of the SIG program is. So I'll try to avoid doing that, but it is an option for me. And that's why I acquired these. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these SIG 6Ks. You should go look them up online. There's actually not too many things on the Kilo 6Ks right now, because these are relatively unknown, because not many people have talked about it. Everyone talks about the 8K and the 10K, and the 6Ks were released or announced roughly the same time as the 8K and the 10K. But no one really cares for these because they're like small 10 by 32 or this is an 8 by 32. They have a 10 by 32. Plus, it doesn't have the fancy features as the 10K. And so people kind of ignore these, but these are very compact and lightweight, comparatively speaking, to the other ones, to like the 10Ks or any other binos. And so I feel like they're a nice option. I will give you a teaser though. Slightly disappointed in the quality control. It's not really deal breakers, but I mean, the retail price on these I think are $1,200, and I would have expected a little bit better QC. And I'll cover those in a future article. I'm going to do a write-up, and then I'll probably record a video review on these. But that's a teaser for you, and hopefully you can hold out until then. Maybe in the next month or two I'll have something on this after I get a chance to try these out. Anyway, one more thing too I wanted to mention. On my blog, I did a article. I'm trying to reorient my camera here, but I did write I finally released and wrote and released my review of the Masterpiece Arms Matrix Pro chassis. So my article's out on this. I'm going to probably record a video review, but for those of you who are not wanting to read my article, I wish you would though. I spend a lot of time on my articles. Granted, I do tend to rush through a few things. I miss certain things, but I seriously put a lot of time into my articles, and especially when it comes to the photos, to provide details and stuff and provide context into what I'm writing about. But I would appreciate if you read it. But for those of you who just don't want to read articles, in summary, the Matrix Pro chassis from Masterpiece Arms, I think it's a good chassis. It's pretty solid. If you're looking for a chassis straight up for a new build, I think it's a fine choice. Lots of versatility here that I like. But, however, if you are looking to upgrade a chassis, like if you have a Masterpiece Arms BA comp like I do, I have several of those, and you're looking to swap the chassis out thinking, hey, the Matrix Pro is going to be better, I don't think it's worth the cost just to upgrade. And if you're going to sell your BA comp to get to the Matrix Pro and then lose money on that and then spend more on this, I don't think you're going to get that much cost-benefit ratio by doing that. So I would probably recommend not doing that. I think the BA comp is a great chassis, especially at the price they were selling at 2 or 3 years ago. But now chassis are getting a lot more expensive. For the life of me, I can't remember the price on this. I think this is $1,500, $1,600 for this chassis. So it's getting quite expensive to buy chassis systems now. Anyway, that's kind of my summary here. Again, great chassis. I think it's got a lot of versatility. Some oil there. But if you're buying straight up brand new chassis for a new build, this is worth considering. Granted, there's other options out there, but I think this is a fine choice. But if you're looking to upgrade an existing MPA BA comp to this, you could probably forego that. And definitely read my article for my opinions on that in a little bit more details. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started shooting. It is windy today, which is fine. I don't really care. I'm not shooting for score here. I am just shooting to run through the whole, run through the stages and get everything prepped for match day. Plus, it's supposed to be triple digits today, and so any wind will be nice for a breeze to cool things down. Before we begin, a little disclaimer here. I'm running through the stages not in the order as they appear in the Course of Fire published by the NRL22, pages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going out of order because I've laid it out differently and I'm working myself right to left on the firing line. So that's how we're going. Anyway, we're going to start off today with the first stage of fire that I'm going to run through is called 911 or 9/11. I believe it's a September 11th sort of tribute theme. 122nd part time, 11 rounds. We have two targets. We have, two banks. We have three targets, same distance and two different target hangers. We have a 1.5 inch at 85 yards on a double hanger, and we have a 1.5 inch and a 5 inch on a double hanger, also at 85 yards. But they are spaced roughly at 10 yards apart. I will note that right now I have them spaced 7.5 yards according to how I distanced it off. I'm going to leave it that way because to go beyond that, I guess I could do it. Maybe I will do it, but I think it doesn't really add too much the way this range is laid out and how much distance you have to move. But I'll decide. I think I can move it another 2 yards left and we should have no issues based on the logistics here. Anyway, they're spaced about 10 yards apart, but right now we're 7.5. This is going to be the bonus stage, so you get extra points for extra time remaining. But as I always state, don't worry about extra time. Just focus on making your hits. You're going to start standing, rifle all gear in hand, mag in action open. On the start signal, the shooter will take a supported prone position and engage the small target with 1 round, alternating left, then right until 9 rounds have fired. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The shooter will then take an unsupported seated position. Unsupported seated, so you could probably use a sling as I've already slung up here, and engage the large target with 1 shot. The shooter will then perform a mandatory reload and engage the large target with 1 shot from the unsupported seated position again. So basically prone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Get in seated, shoot the large target, reload, shoot again. So basically you need 2 mags, one 10-rounder, one with 10 rounds, and another one with at least 1 round, and you should be good to go. Pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned, but let's go ahead and run through it and see how it goes. I ran this twice. This stage is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. 1.5 inch target, 85 yards. Isn't too bad. Issue today is it's windy, so actually on the second run I missed a few shots, like 3 shots. And then the side to side movement. First time I did it without a pan on my bipod. The second time I did it with a pan. I felt like that with a pan, that didn't really add anything. It actually made it more complex. I felt a little bit more stable because with a pan, I'm more trying to just move the gun when you should be moving your whole body slightly to shift, to adjust the angle so you're behind the gun the whole time. So my first tip for that is to leave your bipod locked in, assuming you have a pan feature. If you have a pan feature, lock it in and keep that so it's not panning. And then just move your body. That's the best way to go. I felt I was more accurate that way with the constant side-to-side shifting. The second thing is the first run, I didn't realize my sling was not set up correctly. So I actually haven't used my sling. I don't think I used my sling recently. And so it was longer than I thought it was going to be, and I wasn't getting a good sling tension when I was shooting sitting. And frankly, even on the second run, it wasn't feeling right either. This gun is painfully heavy, which is not a big deal because my service rifle weighed about 1 pound less than this, my AR, and I used to shoot sling all the time with that. The thing is, your sights are just too far back. There's nothing I can do about that for this gun. And frankly, I think you're just going to have to shoot with a lot of tunneling. When you're shooting in sitting position, it's just the way your face is going to be on the gun, especially if you're shooting an up angle, you're going to be close to it. You really have no eye relief there. So you're just going to have to shoot with that black. You're going to shoot with the black around your image, I think. You have to learn how to shoot like that. That's not ideal, right? You want it to have a perfect sight picture, but in this type of match situation, I feel like you're just going to have to make that compromise unless you have the type of gun. I guess I could try to run my buttstock all the way out to get me more length of pull, which isn't really ideal, but that length of pull will get me farther behind the scope. I'd rather not do that though, because I'd have to run it multiple times, and it adds more time to my stage. So anyway, definitely need to practice sitting with this gun. Although it's not going to be fun, I just don't like the way this is not a positional gun. So it is what it is. But yeah, definitely highly recommend people practice this stage, especially getting into your sitting position on the clock and establishing that. It's a 5-inch target, which is pretty big, but at the same time, if your position is not solid, you're still going to miss. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next stage of fire. The next stage we're running through is called Lest We Forget the Fallen 2, 120-second part-time, 10 rounds. We have 2 targets. We have a 1 inch at 30 yards, 2.5 inch at 75 yards. Restrictions for this stage: the shooter's entire body and equipment/rifle must be on the rooftop. So you're pretty much going to be shooting off the rooftop, entire body. 10 points per impact, 100 points possible. Standing, rifle and all gear in hand, mag in, action open. On the start signal, the shooter will ascend the rooftop and engage each target with 2 shots near, then 2 shots far, and repeat sequence till out of time or ammo. For safety, the rifle may be handed to the shooter while ascending or descending. The rooftop is sideways and facing to the side with the peak on the right. And they did release a kind of a thing on the NRL22 Match Directors Facebook group. If you have a left-handed shooter, you have to reorient the rooftop so it's to the left. Simply because if they're shooting downrange, they're going to be shooting upside down. So for left-handed shooters, they'll just shift the rooftop over. Pretty self-explanatory. As you can see here, I already have my rifle staged. That's pretty much how I think I'm going to shoot it. So, but yeah, let's run through this one. For some reason, I didn't have enough ammo in the mag I put in there. It wasn't 10 rounds, so I ended up running this a second time, which is the only run you'll see on this video. But very interesting stage of fire. There is some complexity here. I'm trying to run it with the SkyPod in this manner, as you see here. We do have these slats here to keep you on the roof, which does help this the people who shoot this match. If you did not have these slats here, be much more difficult, but I could do it. I can stay on the rooftop, but I've seen like a lot of other people cannot stay on the rooftop apparently without some sort of brace here. So we have them. But let's get to the meat of this. The way I'm running this on the SkyPod is very unique to the SkyPod, and so I have these spiked feet, and so I got a lot of traction here. People with Harris bipods, maybe even Atlas, will not be able to do this. So, but when I shooting this way, it's relatively simple enough. It's just getting the bag adjusted because of how, in our situation here, we're shooting it below like a negative angle downhill, that we're shooting uphill. So there's a little bit of little movement there, but other than that, you're okay. I didn't adjust parallax, which probably should have. Didn't cost me anything, but my targets are still relatively clean as far as they're easy to see. But if you're shooting this later in the day after several other competitors shot this stage and the steel is like pretty much unpainted, probably gonna have to adjust parallax. It shouldn't take much time though, because according to this, I did finish with only 73.15 elapsed, so 73 seconds on the clock. So it's plenty of time, at least in my situation. So I would adjust for parallax. Just you'll need to if the target is not clean, like it's unpainted, the paint's all off of it. But I think this more serious or pressing issue is how are you going to shoot this? So if you don't have a bipod that is capable of doing this, your only other option, in my opinion, is putting another bag here. You're gonna run a big bag and try to hold it in place, or you shoot off the top of this roof. And you're gonna need a relatively decent bag to get your rifle off of the rooftop. And then you still need to be able to adjust your angle to the target, because here I need to shoot upwards. My pistol grip is blocking this. So this is a unique situation to deal with. You may have to stack your bag like this, in which case then you can shoot like this. So this is how I anticipate many people end up shooting it, is off the top ridge of the rooftop. If you're fortunate to have a SkyPod, this is the way to go. Unfortunately, this is where I guess you'll start seeing how like open class and spending more money on your gun will give you certain advantages that other people don't. That's an unfortunate aspect of the game, I guess. We'll call it a game. Unfortunate aspect of this format. Unless we start limiting people, hey, you can't use SkyPods because they provide too much of an advantage over people who can't afford them. I don't know. I don't want to get into that whole conversation, but anyway, this is one prime example of how spending more money on certain gear can help you and give you an advantage. So anyway, enough of this stage. Let's move on to the next one. Next stage of fire we're running through is called Through the Rubble. It's 120-second fire time, 10 rounds. We have a single target, 3-inch at 100 yards. The restrictions for the stage is no part of the equipment or rifle may touch the ground. So some of these, it's like I think the only place that would probably apply to is this bucket. You won't be able to use your rear bag for support against the ground. So this probably lends itself to like a pump pillow or something of that nature. Anyway, 10 points per impact, 100 points possible. You can start standing, rifle, and all gear in hand, mag in action open. On the start signal, the shooter will engage the target with 2 shots in the following prop order. So you can do 2 shots from the top of the sawhorse, 2 shots from the 55-gallon barrel, 2 shots from the seat of the chair, 2 shots from the 2-gallon bucket, and then 2 shots from the 5-gallon bucket. All props are scrunched together and positioned as pictured. In the photo, they don't have really much of they have a little gap, but for the sake of this match, we're gonna just try to run them as close together as possible. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's pretty much a straightforward stage. Just 2 shots, 2 shots, 2 shots, 2 shots, 2 shots. No rifle gear, no rifle
no part of the rifle or your equipment may touch the ground. But yeah, it's straightforward. Let's go and run through the stage. Timed out. The last shot here. This stage of fire is actually a little bit difficult. The first round I used the mega bag, but I was end up fighting the bag, the big bag. A pump pillow, which I didn't bring with me, would be better, I think, because it's smaller. However, instead of the second run, I just used my my Game Changer medium bag in combination with my Area 419 Coltac bag, and I kind of used those two bags together to get me through this stage. I would shoot off both bags to give you a little bit of height, and we're shooting at an upward angle off the sawhorse. Then here I use the just the Area 419 Cold Tag combo here with this as kind of a fill for my body, my arm, keep that stable, and that worked well. Then transition to the chair, I stayed with the with just the bags, and then on the buckets I deployed the bipod. So the reason why I decided to deploy the bipod is prone would probably be better, but the problem with prone is you can't use a bag anyway to support yourself on the ground. So I figured with a SkyPod, I could just use my bipod, shoot a sitting position, because I'm already in sort of a straight body position with the kneeling, that going to sitting is quick enough. And I can get my shots off with a relatively stable position with the bipod, and this is my fill for my body. And then same for the 5-gallon bucket. This is going to take a lot of practice for people because it's going to depend on your gun and how you have your equipment set up. The fact that you can't let any part of the rifle or your equipment touch the ground does hinder this. I put the camera on the side, and when I was using the Mega Bag, I was making sure not to let the Mega Bag touch the ground. For example, in some position here, I was sitting, I think, I had the Mega Bag actually on my feet, like on top of my feet, so it was actually resting on my feet, not the ground. Although some would argue, oh yeah, a little piece of the Cordura was touching the ground, therefore they wouldn't cue me for that. If I saw that happen, I wouldn't say anything. I would just, that's just incidental contact. If you're letting the bag touch your foot or your leg before it hits the ground, I think that's true. That's in the spirit of the rule there. Anyway, though, I don't think the Mega Bag is good for this stage. For me, I just struggled with it. I was fighting the bag more than anything. Something like a pump pillow, which is about half the size, would work better. But I made do with just a medium bag and another bag to support the rifle. In this case, my Cold Tag D bag. For those of you who need a closer shot of it, it's basically an arc-mounted bag. It's on the Air 419 Rail Changer X plate, and then the Cold Tag D bag is basically a flat bag that attaches straight to it. And so that's kind of how I can run that. If we're running on flat ground, this will be a lot easier this stage here, but we're shooting at upward angle, so that does complicate. I think it's about a 4-degree angle, 4 degrees, 3 degrees. So it does complicate things. Anyway, that's highly recommend you practice this stage for your gun, with your gun, your equipment, to see how you're going to run this. Let's go ahead and move on to the next stage of fire. Next stage of fire running, this is called rebuilding brick by brick, 120-second part time, 10 rounds. We have 2 banks of targets. We have a full KYL rack at 35 yards, and then we have a 3-inch at 100 yards. 10 points per impact, 100 points possible. There's no real restrictions outlined on the stage. You're going to start standing, rifle on gear in hand, mag in, action open. On the start signal, the shooter will engage the targets with 1 shot, hit or miss, move on in the following manner and order. Off the double blocks, we have cinder blocks here stacked, 1 cinder block and 2 cinder blocks stacked on top of each other. You're going to shoot double blocks far target. Then you shoot single block 1-inch KYL, double blocks far target, single block 3/4-inch KYL, double blocks far target, single block 1/2-inch KYL, double blocks far target, single block 1/4-inch KYL, then double blocks far target, 1/4-inch KYL. So it's basically alternating between far target and KYL, moving on down. So 1, 3/4, half, quarter. Pretty straightforward. Just remember your cadence and figure out how you want to shoot this. So they don't say anything here, but it is I know there's people who are going to try to game this stage. You're going to shoot off the cinder blocks. I'm sure people are going to try to they'll just put their bipod past the cinder blocks on the ground. You're shooting off the cinder blocks, and it's not stated here, but I'm going to state that for this match, explicitly imply, and I'm going to put that you're shooting off the cinder blocks. The rifle, generally the front of the rifle needs to be supported by the cinder blocks. It's unfortunate you have to say stuff like this because people just, they want to, it's not just gaming, it's just totally disregarding the intent of the stage. And I mean, if people were going to do that, then we might as well just remove all the props and shoot prone all day. But that's not the goal, right? The goal is to make you shoot off props. So even though it's not explicitly defined here, you're shooting off where your rifle is primarily rested on the top of the cinder blocks. Anyway, I'm going to put that on my stage description when I put it up on match day, but that is essentially what's implied. But let's go ahead and start run through the stage and see how it goes. Whew, that one's kind of hard. Okay. Timing. Whew. This is a workout. Actually, that was my last stage. So, sorry, that was my last round. So, I'm good. 115. Sorry, that was 10 shots. That was tough. I missed the last one though. Whew. I also found this stage to be very difficult, to be honest. It's a straightforward stage, but the movements here are what complicates things because you're basically moving. You're changing elevations here, and you're taking one shot every time. So it's basically a drill stage where you're constantly getting into position to break a shot, getting into position to break a shot, and constantly moving. It's kind of like last month's ladder stage where you just one shot move, one shot move. So that's basically the same thing here. I think for me though, the most difficult aspect of it is you're moving positions in left to right, and you're from a prone position. I think I approached this all wrong. When I ran this. I think I should have just shot a sitting position here. Use the bipod and just shot sitting. I didn't think about that until now. I shot prone both times on 2 runs. And it's just trying to move into a prone position and get back down, get up and get down. If you try to slide across, you're still trying to manipulate, at least for me, a heavy gun. So it would have been better had I just went with a prone, or sorry, a sitting position with the bipod, and then use the mega bag as my support for my body. I think this might have actually worked better for me. And to be honest, I don't know. I may try this one, practice this off camera, but I think this would have been the better play for me. But from a prone position, you're very much slowing yourself down, moving from prone to prone, getting up, getting down. It's just that whole act of movement and getting back into a prone slows you down quite a bit. And you saw me on the second run. I ran 2 bags. I held them in my hand, just dropped this one down for this position, and used my medium bag for the second position. Both from a prone, not using bipod, just resting it on the front bag. So I was basically using 3 bags. Again, I don't know if this was the play, but I feel like the sitting position could have been easier. It would have been faster because I wouldn't have been having to get up. I would just see my body. I'm staying in a nice upright position. With prone, again, if I had a light gun, maybe it would have been easier because I would just toss the gun to one side and the other. But this is a pretty heavy gun, so it slows me down. So it's kind of I created this problem for myself. Anyway, this is an interesting stage. It's a nice drill stage. It's kind of disguised or obfuscated in terms of what it is in terms of resetting positions. So definitely nice way. This is a nice stage to practice. Along with the ladder stage, I feel like everyone should just get the ladder and do that drill where you shoot for one rung, then keep moving, changing rungs constantly. That's a great drill. And this one is a nice drill stage too. So anyway, I think we got one more stage to go, and then we're done with this walkthrough. Last stage of fire we're going to run through is called Never Forget. It's a 12-round stage, 120-second part time. We have 4 targets. 1.5 at 50 yards, 2 inch at 70 yards, 2.5 at 80 yards, 3 inch at 100 yards. 100 points per impact, 120 points possible. No real restrictions here. You can start standing, rifle gear in hand, nagging action open. On the start signal, a shooter will take a position on the ladder and engage the targets in the following manner with 1 round each. Hit or miss, move on. Any ladder rung that is not touching the tire. Near to far. Different ladder rung. Far to near. Different ladder rung near to far. Elevation and windage turrets cannot be changed. The only change allowed is parallax and magnification. It's kind of an equipment skill stage. Just know your holdovers. That's pretty much it. How to use your reticle. As far as the ladder rungs, so for the sake of this demonstration, I am not going to tie this down, but I will probably tie this. I'll use a bungee cord of some sort to secure the ladder to the tire. But right now it's relatively safe for me because I know how to run on the ladder and it won't fall over. But for boat come match day, I'll have it secured. In that case, I'll probably secure it like this, maybe, or just like this. If I secure it like this, in which case you can't use this ladder rung. It'll be one of these rungs here that you'll use. So I'll leave it like this. This is relatively stable for me. And then, yeah, any one of the ladder rungs. So near to, what was it? Near to far? It was near to far, far to near, near to far. Pretty straightforward. This chase shouldn't be too difficult. Just know your holdovers. Far to near. Okay. Oh, bipod's in the way. Near to far. Oh, forgot to reload. This last one. Whew, barely finished. Okay. Far to near.
near the floor. So this position will switch. Sitting. And I forgot to reload. Not thinking. Gotta remember to reload. That was the only thing.
This stage of fire wasn't terribly difficult, although you have to be optimized as far as your movements are concerned. Don't forget to reload. I ran this twice and I forgot to reload both times. I shot from the highest positions because those are the most comfortable for me. I shot from a kneeling position here, and I went kneeling position the first run, sitting position the second run. And I think sitting was a lot better, sitting because I can get the gun down. I was shooting kind of like side eye, kind of head canted. I felt that if I went to a kind of a crouching position, I was putting too much strain on the front of the gun. I was jamming the gun and I was causing a lot more wobble than I wanted, so I felt like the sitting was a little more relaxed for me. Some people may opt to go prone on one of the lower rungs. That's your choice, but for me, I just don't want to have to go prone if I don't have to. If you're moving constantly, I'd rather not go prone. But yeah, this one seemed pretty simple enough. Just get your rounds off quick. I didn't even adjust parallax. I think on my parallax set for 50, and I just trusted my gun. Trusted my scope, and yeah, I think I might have modified my magnification. I don't know what the first run, but the second run I just had 12x. But I just did test the magnification. I kept my parallax roughly about 50, a little bit beyond 50, and that was it. I mean, I have enough depth of field on the Z comp that I think it doesn't really matter too much on the parallax between 50 and 100. It's blurry, but it's forgiving, so it's not a big deal for me to shoot, especially with these larger targets, 3-inch at 100 yards with the parallax off. It's not a problem. Just one little tip here before we close out this stage and the entire run here. So last month, there was a person on my stage who was constantly adjusting their magnification when they were getting onto a target. They had it maxed out. I think it was 25x. And then they were trying to find the target and they couldn't find it. They shot the wrong one and they would go down to like 4x, 5x, and come back up to 25 and constantly do that over and over again just to hunt for the target. You got to stop doing that. If you're a new shooter, I know we all use these high magnification scopes. Mine is a 5 to 27. Some people have like the 6 to 36 Razor. We have these huge magnification scopes. But for an NRL22, you don't. Just because you have it doesn't mean you use it, right? You don't need to shoot beyond 20 most of the time. If you're shooting the KYL rack and you're just on the KYL rack, I would understand why you would want to go 25x because you're not moving. But if you're just switching position to position, moving target to target, you can't run 20x and up. Arguably, you can't run 16x and up. You got to get comfortable shooting like a 12x, 12 power magnification, 10 power maybe, 12 power. Shoot 12 power at 100 yards, it should be accurate enough. Even on a 1-inch target, you should be able to hold that. If you can't, you got to look at your scope. Can you adjust the diopter to make sure your reticle's clear? Are you making sure that your parallax is adjusted correctly when you're for your eye? And that's kind of the key things. And if if that's the best your scope can do, then maybe you need a better scope with better glass quality. Because you really should be able to engage targets, the 1-inch, 2-inch target at 100 yards with just 12x. Yes, I use a 527, but I have it, and it's nice. I like to have that high power when I'm shooting off a bench or I'm trying to shoot groups or something. If I'm shooting a specific target where I'm not moving, right? I'm not changing positions. Those are the use cases for that. But then I'm always running down lower power for NRL22 stages. Anyway, I just want to point that out. I see a lot of people waste so much time on the clock just trying to find their targets when they should have just been dialed down on their magnification and would have saved themselves you know, 8 seconds per shot or per movement. And that's huge, especially for someone who's not very experienced. I don't say experienced, but just isn't at that certain skill level yet. You've got to make optimizations. Anyway, that's it for my tip there. This stage is relatively straightforward. I thought it wasn't as difficult as the other stages, so that's that. Anyway, I've already cleared out during this whole run through off camera. I was constantly shuffling targets around, so I don't have much out there anymore. All my props are already in. But let me clean up this stage, and then we'll wind down this whole range log. My summary of the September 2022 NRL22 Course of Fire, it's actually moderately difficult. Moderate to a little bit more difficult than moderate. It's not like supremely difficult, but I think compared to the rest of the first 3 Courses of Fire we shot so far this season, this is the most difficult one. There should be 3 stages that could cause people some problems, and it's definitely a Course of Fire that you should practice on your own time before you head out to a match. Especially the sitting stage, for those of you who shoot sitting or have unique guns such as mine, which require a little bit more finesse when shooting in the positional stage or positional type shooting scenarios, because the weight and whatnot and how the gun is set up, the scope. Yeah, definitely need to practice that. Highly recommend figuring out how you're going to shoot that cinder block stage. That could be an issue for some. And the rooftop stage may be difficult for some depending on how your gun is set up. So definitely you should definitely try to review those Courses of Fire before you head to a match, so you're not, caught by surprise in terms of, oh wow, I don't know, it's not working. Like once you get on the stage, you can't shoot it the way you want it to, so you're caught trying to figure out how to adapt. So definitely run through those beforehand, and that's why the NRL they release the Courses of Fire ahead of time so people can see them and see what they're going to be. So it makes it more helpful and more easier for novice shooters to just get into the match with at least some preparation. Anyway, that's it for today. Not much else to say. Not sure when I'm going to come to the range again. It's hot. I don't know what the temps are right now, but at 8 o'clock it was already 93 degrees in the shade. It's scorching out here, and just getting my targets and pulling in all the stuff was exhausting because of the heat. But I don't know when I'm going to come to the range again. I do want to play around with that Kilo 6K, although I may not do it at the range. I might just go out into the field somewhere and just laze just objects and get an idea of the image clarity or whatnot, and so I can get a good assessment of it before I do a write-up. And a reminder, as I stated earlier in the vlog, I did release my review of the Masterpiece Arms Matrix Professional Chassis, so please read that. I'm going to link to it in the video description so you can check that out. Anyway, that's it for today, August 31st, Wednesday, here at the West End Gun Club. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vlog.